Coming up on Tech News Today, we take a look at what's happening in Japan after the earthquake, specifically to the tech community and how people are communicating using wireless technology, social networks, and all of that sort of thing. Also, the possibility of Eric Schmidt becoming Commerce Secretary. We'll float that out there, see how likely we think that is. And, of course, your camera. Does it need 3G? We'll discuss that and some talk about unicorns coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, March 11th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by MailRoute.info. MailRoute is a secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade virus and spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now, absolutely free, at MailRoute.info. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Sarah Lane.
And this is the show where we kick around the tech news of the day. If you're watching live, we're recording a little early today, and that's because we're going to be flying out to South by Southwest. So thanks for joining us a little early on this day. Joanna Stern from Engadget. It's good to have you along.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I know you're going to be leaving the show and going straight to the Apple Store for the iPad 2 release, right?
That's right. Going over to the Cube and join the other, I guess they're saying 150 people online there now. So
Jeez.
I'll go check out what's going on there. Well, and then maybe get on the back of the line and go buy myself an iPad 2.
We've declared the show an iPad 2 free zone from here on out, mostly because by the time people by the time people listen to the show, everyone will already
be out.
Yeah, it'll already be out.
We don't have much to say that we didn't already say the rest of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
But
I'm iPad 2'd out too. I don't want to even talk about it.
Excellent. All right, we're all agreed then. There is much bigger news. Of course, probably everybody already knows about the earthquake that hit Tokyo at 2:46 p.m. local time on Friday. 8.9 earthquake centered 236 miles east of Tokyo, of course, you know, our hearts go out to everyone in Japan. We hope everyone's safe. Thanks to their structural code, damages have been minimized much below what they could have been. It could have been a lot worse. Still, they're talking close to 1,000 people dead, lots of injuries. And of course, because we're a technology show, we're not trying to minimize the cost of human impact. There's plenty of places to go to find out about that. We do want to cover some of the technology that is involved here. And there's some significant developments. We're not just trying to localize the story and come up with a tech angle. Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs said KDDI's undersea cables are broken because of the earthquake, and telecom is working to fix those. Sony, Subaru, and Toyota all closed factories in the wake of the earthquake because of damage. Honda reported that one employee was dead because of the earthquake, and I believe Panasonic had several injuries because of damages to their factories.
Also
so quite an impact in the technology community as well as the wider community.
Apparently, one of the LCD plants that Sharp runs in Sakai City shut itself down automatically after there was the first sign of an earthquake. So an actual plant that said, hey, something's up.
There's a nuclear plant, too, that it was having a problem with its cooling systems. That last I checked, there was still pressure building. They were still watching it. They were evacuating people from around it. So that's frightening as well. And there's a great article up at zdnet.com about all of the resources to find out about what's going on in Japan regarding technology, regarding data centers, and what services are up and what services are available, what disaster systems and rescue systems are available online to help folks. Google, for instance, has put up their Person Finder tool, which the last time we saw was in Egypt. They did it in Haiti as well. It's a way to share data on the availability of people. Because when this earthquake hit, people were without the ability to get home. The transportation system shut down. So a lot of people had to walk hours and hours and hours across cities to get back to their homes, which means people are delayed. Some people may have waited it out. And we're getting lots of reports that the cell networks are jammed. Folks are using text message and Twitter to communicate a lot more, and even things like Facebook, a lot more than calls, because NTT Docomo, amongst others, are reserving a lot of the bandwidth for disaster calls.
Yeah, at least on the Google's site, at least right now, I know when I went to bed last night, they were tracking about 4,000 records of folks. So you can either choose, I'm looking for somebody, here's their name, here's where they might be living, or I have information about somebody that's okay, or the alternative. The number's now up to 7,200 records, so people are definitely using this. It's available in a variety of languages, English, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, to name a few, which is, Google, this went up in record time, so kudos to them. It's a really good service. And as rudimentary as it might be, it's helpful.
And of course, following the story online, people are uploading YouTube videos of their experience, photos galore of what's going on. Joanna, I'm sure you've been following this like the rest of us. What places have you relied on to get your information?
Yeah, so I woke up this morning, and I don't actually know what time this started last night. I had definitely gone to bed. But I woke up this morning, and the first thing I do in the morning is usually check Twitter. I hate to admit it, but that's usually what I do. And I really just sort of got stuck, like basically checking all the sources of news from my Twitter feed for at least an hour this morning. Just things from YouTube to, mainstream media sort of clips. CNN was live streaming some stuff. The YouTube stuff is, I think always now there's sort of this citizen video aspect that makes it really just so much more personalized when you check it out. You sent over the link too that Peter Kafka had put together of some of the really just most trafficked YouTube videos, and pretty just some really really powerful stuff. So I've definitely been watching a ton of video, checking out the pictures on mainstream media outlets. I haven't actually turned on the TV or even really read that many articles. I hate to admit it. I've seen the headlines, that sort of thing, but I haven't actually I think I've definitely created my own media stream at this point.
The situation has been a real wake-up call, I think, to me, that I'm not getting a lot out of my television news information. Last night was a really good example. I was about to go to sleep. It was my bedtime on the West Coast anyway. I know a lot of people on the East Coast were already asleep. So we were kind of in this little window where it's like, oh my gosh, something really terrible is happening. Turn on CNN. At least that's what I did in my house, because Twitter alerted me that there was a problem. And it turned, I was telling Tom before the show started that I kind of likened it to the CNN, the folks that were reporting on it. They were reporting, they were doing their jobs, but it was like a friend who won't shut up during a movie that you really want to see, because I'm so used to digesting the news in an on-demand way via the internet and my online outlets. And the folks on MSNBC, I'm not singling out CNN particularly, they're all reading Twitter just like I am. From the same news sources. The breaking news Twitter feed is telling me more than what I'm seeing on the news, and I eventually just turned it off because it was regurgitated information over and over. So
I literally sat in my bed with my iPad for about, I'd say, an hour and a half this morning. I was a little late to work. I can't even name how many sources. It was definitely the mainstream media sources, but definitely YouTube, Twitter. People were retweeting pictures that people had taken. A lot of the tweets were obviously not in English, but you click on the pictures and, you don't need to know what the tweet actually said. So
yeah, that Peter Kafka article that you were talking about, Joanna, was my first introduction to it this morning. I was already asleep last night by the time the news broke, and so I was watching before I'd seen any news reports. I was watching a video from somebody's apartment of their television shaking and books falling off the wall and them running downstairs. And,
that's the first video. It's crazy.
That was my introduction to what happened. And Jock Searles has a really interesting article up on his Harvard blog about the fact that, at least online, the networks were like print media as far as their ability to cover this. There were very few live streams in the United States of what was going on, at least initially. I guess CNN had a few because it has their alternate streams, but none of them were streaming their main coverage. And he was pointing out that BBC News, Al Jazeera English, Twitter, these were the places where you could go and get a live stream of coverage as things happened. I have to say, I turned on Al Jazeera English this morning and was watching their coverage on it. They had a package that was amazing because they didn't voice over everything. To your point, Sarah, they let the pictures tell the story. And it was much more moving and much more powerful to just see things in action that way.
And there was, at least last night, particularly within the folks that I follow, there was a real backlash about some of the cable news networks' approach to reporting the story. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was very off-putting to hear somebody throwing their opinions on what might be happening, even though the story was still unfolding, and kind of doing this analysis that felt out of place and inappropriate, considering the fact that we're watching live a tsunami take out homes.
Yeah. And I think with, not just this earthquake today, but also the revolutions in the Middle East and other things that have been going on recently, I have found that I don't turn on my television anymore. I go to BBC News, I go to Al Jazeera English, I go to Twitter. And I go to different sources because I'm already online, and maybe I'm unique in this case, or not unique, but maybe I'm rare. I mean, the majority of the populace isn't always as online, at least as much as I am. But I'm already in my laptop, I'm already on my iPad, and I've got access to live video, live print right there. That to me is a better quality than what I would get if I go and turn on my television.
Well, these are also a variety of sources that you can digest simultaneously. On TV, you can flip between several news outlets back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Online, you can be watching your Al Jazeera feed. You can be updating your Twitter feed and getting live links from other folks who know more than you do. This is a completely different way of digesting the news, and when something catastrophic happens, particularly because it's something that everyone's focusing on, it really shows how television is no longer our access point. They're getting the news just like we are.
Yeah,
sure.
And you either like what they're saying or you don't, but they're not ahead of anybody else.
Right. And I also think it's a customization thing. At least for me, I sat there for about an hour this morning just focused on the earthquake coverage and the tsunami coverage. And then actually, I was trying to figure out what was, what they were sort of the emergency situation in Hawaii at the time. And I was able to sort of customize what I wanted to know, right? So I didn't have to wait for the commercials like you mentioned before, or some sort of commentary like you mentioned. I mean, I didn't have to do all of that, right? I could just sort of get what I wanted. I could fill my time with some videos, or if it was images, and then searching for more stuff in terms of Google News. But it's that customization aspect that I think that the networks and even so much through their apps are trying to sort of achieve through the digital stream.
And I think here in the United States, and this isn't so much internet related, but the networks have, especially the cable networks, to a lesser extent, the broadcast networks have built their news operations to be entertainment arms now.
Right.
The networks are entertainment arms, and news is sort of gravy for them. And that shows in situations like this where that entertainment infrastructure just seems out of place. And I think that explains some of the people who were frustrated watching network news yesterday or watching CNN and saying, this seems wrong, what are they doing? They sound too cheerful. It's the way they've been trained to do it, and which is why I prefer to go to something like Al Jazeera English or BBC, because they treat the news very seriously. They treat it worldwide most of the time, and it seems like better news to me.
Well, the news outlets, there's an angle or there's a spin. And something like this, there is no angle and there is no spin. There is just information, and that's what people want. And if they get anything else, it's likely that they'll take it the wrong way.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to a story from Bloomberg today saying that President Obama is considering replacements for the Commerce Secretary. Current Commerce Secretary Gary Locke will be nominated to become the U.S. ambassador to China. So in his replacement, the word on the street is former Pfizer Incorporated Chief Executive Officer Jeffrey Kindler, along with current U.S. Trade Representative Ron Kirk and Google CEO Eric Schmidt, are all being considered as a replacement for Commerce Secretary. Apparently, Bloomberg says the next Commerce Secretary is going to have a significant role in the National Export Initiative, which might give Kindler a leg up on this because he's part of a presidential advisory board on increasing U.S. exports. But Eric Schmidt, he gave $25,000 to Obama's inaugural committee, and he's been called into the White House several occasions to give economic advice. He's met with the president on a couple of occasions, most recently and most famously here in the tech world in that power meeting with Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and Larry Ellison and company.
Is that enough to make him a good contender for Commerce Secretary? I mean, he gave some money. He certainly is familiar with relations in other nations. I mean, think about China specifically. I mean, that comes to mind. But I mean, is Schmidt the guy for this? It seems a little left field to me, but maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I'm interested in your take, Tom. I know you had mentioned before you had a idea of why this isn't going to happen, or you don't think it will.
I kind of don't think Eric Schmidt. I think he's being considered because he is a friend of the administration. They've relied on him so often. And when you pick a commerce secretary, they often pick someone from the world of business. But if they're focusing on exports, he is not the guy. I don't think Google has shown itself. Well, first of all, they don't export products, physical products. They export services.
Right.
And they haven't shown themselves to be brilliant at that, especially in the area of China. Maybe Eric Schmidt is not the person who caused the trouble with China. It may be Larry Page and Sergey Brin. There's a lot of talk that there was some disagreement about that inside the company. But still, I don't know, maybe only Nixon can go to China. Maybe only Eric Schmidt can go to China too. But I don't think he's the right person to deal with that commerce initiative.
Does the U.S. administration see Eric Schmidt, because of what happened in China, as the guy who can meet him in the middle?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I have a feeling that and he's up against a U.S. trade representative as well, who's already in the know about how all this stuff works.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of thing seems like a no-brainer, right? You have someone who's got total experience in sort of dealing with these international issues. Not to say that Schmidt doesn't have international experience, but it'll be interesting. And I thought he was working on wasn't he going to get some sort of a TV show? Didn't he want some, wasn't that the rumor?
There's I think he steps down in April. And so there was a rumor that he would take over a TV show and start giving commentary as well. We should have him on TWiT. We'll give him a show.
I'd love Eric to Skype in one day.
A little bit more. I was picturing some sort of Jerry Springer-esque show. I don't know.
Well, we need that. We don't really have that. So, maybe...
I don't know if TWiT is his thing.
Eric Schmidt could have a daytime show, sort of a daytime chat show.
Where on TWiT?
Yeah.
Sure. Just call in. Ask Eric.
Schmidt Eric says.
Yeah. I'm still with the Jerry Springer. Maybe it's like a CEO off, they sort of CEO battles.
Yes. Hot Schmidt.
Yeah.
I like it. Call us, Mr. Schmidt.
All right. Dell is back to being number 2 in the PC market, according to iSupply. Overall, iSupply says the fourth quarter set a record for overall PC shipments. So take that post-PC era Steve Jobs. One of the reasons that Dell is number 2 is because Acer slipped back. And one of the reasons Acer slipped back was because they focused on netbooks, and netbook sales have been plummeting in the face of the iPad. So I guess Jobs wins that round.
I like how Dell is touted as, we're number 2. We're number 2, but that's only because Acer isn't number 1 because the iPad sold so many units. It's not necessarily that Dell did something amazing. It's just the way that the market has shifted around them.
Yeah, Hewlett-Packard raised...
The thing is that they've actually been making up here. They're saying, in basically in corporate PC sales, where Dell has sort of trying to shift their strategy in the past year or two, really focusing on consumer PC sales, which I have some issues with because I don't think they necessarily always think the most about consumers when they're designing some of these new PCs. But I do think it's really interesting, like you brought up, that it's basically like, oh, well, actually, you just moved up. It's not that you're actually winning. It's just that someone else dropped.
Yeah, overall, it's good news for the PC sector, though, because the numbers went up 93 million units, up nearly 5% from the same period in 2009. So all of these companies grew. Even Acer grew their sales, grew their shipments. Part of that is because we're coming out of a recession, I guess, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this will be very interesting in the next quarter, because I think people, especially Acer, is really focused now on sort of the tablet space. And what they did in netbooks was really create these sort of low-end netbooks. Everyone's doing low-end netbooks. It's sort of, that's an oxymoron, but really focusing on the cheaper $199 price point. And then they're trying to do that now with tablets. So I think we might sort of bring that back up, and who knows if they'll, there's all this sort of debate about where these tablet sales should be considered in the PC sales. And some people were running that. What was the name of the company that ran the PC numbers with the iPad sales?
I can't remember which company ran those, but it made Apple the number 2. Was it Canalys?
Canalys, yeah. Something with,
I don't think they should do that. I think tablets.
No, me neither.
Tablets should definitely be counted separately.
Yeah.
Amazon is not going to have any affiliates left soon. Illinois Governor Pat Quinn signed a bill into law Thursday that would require companies like Amazon and other internet retailers that use affiliates to pay the state's 6.25% sales tax. And of course, as we have seen over and over again, Amazon responded by saying, we are going to shut down our affiliate program in the state of Illinois starting April 15th.
So this affiliate program, this is the program where you sign up and then there's a little code that you add into links from your website where you say, hey, I bought this Plantronics headset. I really like them. Here's the link to buy them on Amazon. And if folks go through the link and then end up buying, you get a few pennies on the dollar, right? This is the affiliate link program we're talking about.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
If it is,
I make tens of dollars a year off this program.
Yeah, I tried it for a while back in the day, and I never made any money, so I'm not using it. But I know that there are at least a few high-profile bloggers who are. I mean, it's maybe not the bulk of their income, but certainly a big chunk of it.
Yeah,
yeah, sure. No, especially in the the gadget blogging space, I know a few people, especially with independent blogs, that will have these sort of things that, well, we recommended this product, you should buy it. I mean, obviously, sometimes it makes you wonder, did they just recommend this, so you should buy it? But you could definitely see it being really detrimental to a number of people's businesses.
Eventually, every state is going to try to get this tax from Amazon, and is Amazon just going to take their ball and go home in every single state except for, in Washington, Oregon, they actually have warehouses. So they've left the affiliate programs there because they actually do have a physical presence. So they don't object to that. New York has got them to leave the affiliate program, but they still pay taxes there. And I can't remember exactly how they worked that out. But, you may have a situation where only people in 4 or 5 states can be affiliates. And I don't know if we use the affiliate program on the Sword and Laser podcast to help make money to pay for our hosting. And if Amazon gets tossed out in California, we'll probably switch to another bookseller somehow.
Yeah, I've seen on a few sites. I mean, it's full disclosure. Many people know how the affiliate programs work, and bloggers will say, if you like the site, please support us by shopping at Amazon. Here's just the general Amazon link, because whatever you buy, if you just go through this link, I get a little bit of money, and I can pay my hosting fees. But Amazon, if they're hit with a 6.25% sales tax, like they are going to be in Illinois, I mean, they can't possibly keep these affiliate programs up. And what do they really lose? I mean, they lose some links in, but this is probably stuff that you were going to buy anyway.
Yeah, Amazon's betting that they will suffer less than the state in these situations. But so far, nobody's backed down. In the places where they've pulled out, like the Carolinas, nothing's happened. Our continuing coverage of Pwn to Own at CanSec West in Vancouver shows that yesterday the iPhone and the BlackBerry Torch 9800 were pwned. Charlie Miller, principal security analyst at Independent Security Evaluators, won for the 4th year in a row. Usually, he wins by owning Mac laptops. This year, in collaboration with Don Blazakis of ISE, he took a week and discovered a flaw using fuzzing software to identify bugs. He used a drive-by attack that exploited a heap overflow in the code related to Safari and won not only the iPhone, but also the $15,000, although his exploit won't work in iOS 4.3. The exploit is still there, but iOS 4.3 puts address space or ASLR in place, which means that the exploit is there, but it won't work the way he implemented it. So he gets the money on a technicality. He gets the $15,000.
Charlie Miller.
Good job, Charlie.
But he did it.
Yes, but he did it. BlackBerry Torch 9800 running BlackBerry 6 was owned by Willem Pinkers from Matasano and independent researcher Vincenzo Iozzo with help from researcher Ralph Philip Weinman. They stole a complete contact list and a cache of pictures and wrote to file storage using the WebKit-based browser to visit booby-trapped sites, which set off a chain of vulnerabilities, including an integer overflow flaw. They said the big challenge there was there's not a lot of documentation about how the BlackBerry browser works, so security through obscurity was their big challenge to overcome.
A researcher withdrew from attacking the Dell Venue Pro. That's running Windows 7, but may come back at it later today. You know who hasn't been attacked yet, or at least no one stepped up to, is the Nexus S running Android or Firefox.
Yeah, or Chrome still from yesterday. There was the one researcher who canceled.
Returned.
He never came back yet, as far as I know.
It's a conspiracy.
Firefox got
all the
hacked.
Android fans.
Exactly. What does Google do? They're paying off these guys.
It's all the open source. It's a conspiracy.
All right. Finally, Pete Rojas from Gadget was talking in their newsletter recently about the idea of a camera coming out with a 3G modem built in. He says he's got it on some good authority that Sony would come out with a Sony CyberShot with a 3G modem. And we were trying to remember if we could think of any other camera that's ever come out with a 3G modem. There's lots that come out with Wi-Fi.
I've never heard of it. I mean,
Yeah, I haven't heard of it either.
certainly if
There's a lot of wireless cameras, Wi-Fi or the iFi card, but not 3G that I know of.
Okay, first of all, how would this work? Would it work like a Kindle where the 3G is paid for and all it can do is send photos someplace and that's it?
Yeah.
Or would it be a monthly plan?
I was just thinking about this, that would be like, that's what would have to happen, right? I don't think people would want to pay for a data plan on a camera. But my fear is that actually camera, files like picture files aren't that small. So the data charges wouldn't be that cheap. Obviously Kindle and the Nook, they can sort of write that off. It's not that much data for these carriers, but files are these, whether it's I don't know. This is a point and shoot, so maybe the files won't be that big.
Well, but even point and shoots now, if it's anything under 8 megapixels, it's a dinosaur. Right. Those files are big. We're talking 15, 20 megabytes?
Yeah, that's exactly. So that would be the drawback here, right? I definitely wouldn't want to pay a data fee, a monthly fee for a camera.
I wouldn't either. I'm trying to come up with a reason that this would be necessary for me. I'd love to have a better camera than the one that I have in my iPhone 4, but as iPhone 4 users know, it's a decent camera considering that the lens is so small. I just wouldn't carry around something else, especially if I had to pay another monthly plan.
I think that's the only way this works. I think the idea of, point and shoot cameras are declining a little bit anyway because everybody's got smartphone cameras. But I think there are plenty of people who do want to use point and shoots that might like the idea of having their picture automatically posted to Flickr or automatically posted to Twitter, so that you could create a service, but it would have to be free. I don't think people are going to opt to buy a camera that you have to pay a service fee on. I just don't see that happening, considering I think they'll look at it and go, well, for that stuff, I'll just continue to use my smartphone. I don't want to pay another service fee.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what goes on with this.
Could they give something like that away for free?
I think what they do is they build in the price of it into the price of the camera.
Right.
So you estimate that a camera is going to last a couple years, and you negotiate with Sprint or AT&T or someone, and you build in whatever that cost is into the price of the camera. So the camera's a little more expensive, but it comes with the 3G
And for the
option.
people who want 8 megapixels rather than 1.4, then that cost is worth it.
Yeah.
See, I could see something like this hitting overseas way before it hits the U.S. market.
That's a really good point. I could see that too. Yeah. On now to the news fuse.
Dragon Age 2 gamer banned from BioWare's forums allegedly for inflammatory language is now locked out of the single-player game for the duration of his ban. And here's why. EA's backend systems link forum accounts to player accounts. And this is actually worrying some folks because forum trolling has led to multiplayer bans in the past, of course, so that an abusive player doesn't ruin the game for others. But why lock a bad forum apple out of his own private Dragon Age?
Well, this is because Dragon Age has that online authentication that everybody thought EA had gotten rid of.
Apparently not.
A UK government advisory body, the Broadband Stakeholders Group, has confirmed that most of the major fixed-line internet providers in the country will next week sign up to a new voluntary code of practice on traffic management transparency. In other words, kind of a form of net neutrality agreement. Recently, everybody from the European Commission to the UK government has called upon ISPs to be more transparent with their traffic management policies, so they're obliging without any regulation necessary.
A promotion offering Microsoft points, 48-hour Xbox Live passes, and in-game props could have cost Microsoft a little more than it bargained for last weekend after Xbox Live users discovered that they could generate hundreds of working codes and redeem thousands of points. Estimates have been made that Microsoft points worth between $1 or $1 million and $3 million were generated illicitly before Microsoft shut the system down on Monday. Whoops.
You wondering when that copy-paste update we expected in January is finally going to arrive on the Windows Phone 7?
Duke Nukem.
Eric Haudala of Microsoft posted on the company's official Windows Phone blog that the glitches that bricked a few Samsung phones in February has caused the company to take the time to make sure that everything is rock solid before proceeding with the so-called No Donuts update. And that's the update that includes not only copy-paste, but some performance improvements and CDMA support as well.
But I do have an update that has happened for Windows 7. So all's not lost. Our long national Windows Phone 7 data gobbling nightmare is over, my friends. It's over. Yahoo updated its IMAP servers in the last few days, fixing the issue that led to Windows Phone 7 gobbling through large multiples of the kilobytes that they really needed just to check that inbox full of Facebook updates and unfunny jokes forwarded by your cousin Larry.
Yeah.
I hate those. Why does he do that?
Why does he forward to me? He's not even my cousin.
Stop. I keep telling him to stop.
Folks, as you know, South by Southwest Interactive is coming up. We're going to get done with this show and drive to the airport and fly out to Austin.
That's true.
And shortly, we will be clogging your Twitter stream with all of those posts from South by Southwest.
I'll try not to.
Actually, try to keep my South by Southwest posts under control, but not everybody does. So what do you do if you're not really interested? Peter Kafka at All Things D points out that TweetDeck's filter function allows you to block any tweet with any word, including SXSW, and can kind of clean up your feed from all that stuff if you don't want it. We're just saying.
I mean, in years past, I will say I have been guilty of diarrhea of the tweets being at South by Southwest.
Are you reformed now?
Well, what I try to do is hashtag everything. So yeah, I mean, if you want to just kind of filter that stuff out, then I will help you.
Excellent.
And I'll try not to go too overboard. Knowledge Ecology International has obtained a leaked document from the new Trans-Pacific Partnership Treaty that, like the ACTA before it, had its intellectual property chapter drafted by the U.S. The chapter was drafted in secret and has been classified for at least 4 years after negotiations end. The agreement exports, nearly verbatim, the DMCA's rules on digital locks, ISP liability, and subscriber disconnections to the rest of the world.
And now a sad tale of a Swede who should never have listened to his unicorn.
Aww.
Ryan of Sweden heard about Liberty Media's amnesty plan for copyright infringers, so he sent an email promising that he will pay, quote, from the pot of gold I got at the leprechaun at the end of the rainbow, despite criticism of the studio from my unicorn. Liberty Media's lawyers have issued a subpoena to Google for personal information related to Ryan's Gmail account, even though he was obviously joking and is not even from the United States.
Are there unicorns in Sweden? Is there something I don't know?
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Why
I just
else?
confirmed.
Why else would Liberty Media's lawyers take this seriously?
Well,
Because otherwise it'd just be a joke, Sarah.
I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm a little baffled by this whole thing. I really am.
He just thought it would be funny, and I guess the lawyers didn't.
You know, sometimes unicorns just aren't a joke.
That's right.
No, they're real.
It's good advice. All right.
I'll make a T-shirt out of that.
Finally, I just wanted to talk about this.
Unicorns are real.
The unicorns are not a joke. I wanted to talk about an article up on Ars Technica about NASA's Planetary Protection Officer, the PPO. Now, we know that NASA can't admit that the PPO is in charge of keeping the Goa'uld from attacking Earth and turning it into a slave labor planet. But the things that they will admit is the PPO is going to make sure that missions we send into space looking for extraterrestrial life don't end up contaminating their destinations, and they make sure anything we bring back to Earth doesn't accidentally end all life on Earth.
It's kind of like when you want to bring fruit back from Mexico or another country, and they say, no, you actually can't do that.
Right.
Because, we have this delicate ecosystem here.
And they have some
no alien fruit.
They have some different standards. Like if you're going to Mercury with a probe, they don't do whatever you want. Nothing can live there. So they're not worried about contaminating Mercury. But in some other situations, like going to Europa or Io, they're actually going to crash the probes into Jupiter or Saturn so that they burn up and don't carry any contamination.
Because we might have a lot of contamination on our end as well.
Exactly. It seems like
we don't want to ruin Europa with our germs.
They're more worried.
They can't handle our
unicorn
flu.
germs.
Our unicorn germs.
There
exactly.
might be unicorn blood on the probe.
Yep.
They are
That's what I'm
silver.
worried about.
Who's to say? Shall we move on to the calendar now?
Yes, let's.
Now that we're in bizarre
No,
world.
I think we should talk about unicorns and space for a little bit
Oh,
more.
I'm sure we'll figure a way to put it in the calendar.
Starting off our calendar rundown, the Motorola Zoom, or Exum, as Tom likes to say, update is rolling out and brings required enhancements for Flash 10.2. The Flash 10.2 beta hits Android market on March 18th, only supporting Honeycomb during this release. Jailbreak for iOS 4.3 is already up and running. That was fast. When did it come out? Wednesday? Yeah. Good work, jailbreakers. MCV UK is reporting that the Sony NGP is headed to Europe on November 11th. That's according to anonymous sources, but interesting information nonetheless. T-Mobile's new data plans launch this Sunday, March 13th. They're the data plans that are not really as good as the
They're a little more
data
expensive.
plans. Yeah, so you're going to pay more if you're a T-Mobile customer. Sorry about that. The Sony Xperia Play hits the UK on March 31st. This is the one that doesn't require thumbsticks.
Right, it's just got the little nubbins.
Yeah, the little nubs.
Yep.
And a reminder that South by Southwest is upon us. Many of our comrades are already there. We'll be leaving to go to the airport immediately following the show. Live coverage on Saturday and Sunday. That's tomorrow and Sunday. Tomorrow we'll just kind of be roaming. We're kind of party hopping, really, tomorrow. Leo and I are going to be shooting an episode of iPad Today. Not live, but you'll see it next week. And then Sunday's our big day. We have a live episode of TNT, live episode of TWiT. We have a meetup. That's all happening at a place called Momo's. And there's a lot more information at inside.twit.tv. That's our blog, if you're not familiar with it. We've got a blog here at TWiT.
Yeah. You can also follow Inside TWiT if you want to find out where we're going to be, whether
On
you're
Twitter.
in Austin or not. Go to @Inside TWiT. You can follow that. And, of course, today, our first thing from South by Southwest is going to be Brian Brushwood and Lisa Bettany in line at the pop-up Austin store for our final mention of this on the show, iPad 2. And that'll happen if you're watching live. That's going to happen at 3 o'clock Pacific, which is of course 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern, and they will be covering what's going on at the pop-up store. It makes me think it's going to come up out of the ground, but I know it doesn't.
It's just temporary. It's a fancy word for temporary.
Do you have a lot of pop-up stores in New York, Joanna?
We do, actually. I mean, not Apple pop-up stores, because Apple's taken over New York City with its real stores. But we do, like during holiday seasons, people will come and, there's stores. There's sort of like little tents.
We've always had them for Halloween, I've noticed, in San Francisco. There's always that Spirit store kind of pops up everywhere with costumes.
Those have been around a really long time.
But then they go away.
That's not a new concept, yes. Thank goodness they go away. I don't really want to hear about Halloween in March. That'd be...
All right, let's finish up with an email to TNT@twit.tv. Jacob from Romania says, hey, TNT team, non-Google sanctioned devices which use the open source edition of Android are not allowed to use the Android marketplace. He's writing in response to our curiosity about this malware version of the Android security tool that showed up on an independent Chinese marketplace. He says there are a lot of open source edition of Android phones in China. This is also what Amazon is possibly planning to do as well, make a third-party marketplace for the Android App Store. So he's like, that's why people might be using a third-party marketplace and why that malware would have taken that opportunity to show up there and maybe get a few people to install it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know about that issue all too well because, when people started making Android tablets early on before Honeycomb was released, the issue was that they couldn't use the real Android marketplace, the official Google one. So lots of companies, AppsLib is one of them that comes to mind, started creating these third-party marketplaces and sort of aggregating different apps and putting them in that way. So then these tablet manufacturers could get away with saying, oh, well, we do have an app store. It's not as good as Google's, but we have one. So unfortunately, there are a lot of these third-party apps stores that are just not as good. And then, Amazon's coming in. We're all wondering. I'm really interested to see what Amazon's going to do in this sort of space. If it's going to be sort of a media store, I think that could be actually a really useful second app store. So I'm not totally writing that one off.
We were speculating with Chris Null on the show yesterday of how many people might get sucked into this third-party store that had the malware version of the security patch. Because first of all, you'd have to be going to a third-party app store. Then you'd have to be knowing about the malware and not realizing that it should have come over the air from Android. And then you'd have to go to the trouble to download it. I didn't think it was that many people, but Chris is like, hey, never underestimate how idiotic people can be in downloading things.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good point the guy brings up about China, but I know a number of different tablets in the U.S., that were really on sale last year, at the end of last year, maybe mid last year. Some Arcos tablets, other ones, just sort of smaller brands that had to do this sort of third-party app store thing. And people might have bought them and just thought, hey, I'm going to use this. So I'm sure there are some people that will definitely be prone to this issue. But it's a good point that Jacob brings up.
All right. Well, Sarah, you ready to go hop a plane?
I am, Tom. I haven't even packed yet, so I get to go home and throw some underwear in a bag and hope for the best.
All right. I have my suitcase in the car, actually.
Well, that's because you're one of those people who packs the night before. I'm not one of those people. So if you see me at
make me jealous.
I'm sorry, Joanna. We'll shut up now.
Yeah.
I'll be following the Twitter stream. I won't be, putting you into the tweet deck block. So
thank you. We appreciate that, Joanna.
You guys do.
We'll try not to abuse the privilege.
We'll make you proud.
Try to limit the diarrhea of the tweets.
I will.
Joanna Stern sadly does not write nearly enough about unicorns in her job, but she does write about some great stuff at Engadget. Let folks know where they can find it and what you do.
Engadget.com. Today, right now, I'll be uploading some pictures from the iPad launch. If you guys are interested in the lines, I don't know what is in the future after that, but I'm sure it'll be some interesting gadget news.
All right, and thank you so much for being on the show, Joanna. We love having you on.
Oh, thanks, guys.
We will be back on Sunday. There's going to be a live broadcast on Sunday. It will be at 4 o'clock Central Time. So that's 5 o'clock Eastern Time and 2 o'clock Pacific Time, live from South by Southwest at our Momo's Meetup. Check us out there. You can find us, of course, at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call, 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll see you live from Austin.